Hi guys, welcome to today's follow along mobility routine. In today's session I'm going to be coaching you through each and every step and every exercise in the full routine. It's going to take us about half an hour to complete from start to finish. So the goal of today's session is looking to try and release any sort of tightness through the back of the hips and the glutes, and also any sort of tension that you're carrying all the way up through the spine and the abdominal area, and working on trying to open the chest up as well. So this is going to be great if you're finding yourself sat at the computer or you sat at a desk for long periods of time. It could be also that you spend long periods of time behind the wheel when you're driving, and you're just finding you're getting quite tight, quite hunched over throughout the day. You carry a lot of stress through the neck and the shoulders, and we're just trying to relax and switch things off. A big focus of today's session is going to be on stretching those muscles out, but also teaching the joints on how to move properly again. So regaining the range of motion at each of the joints throughout the body at the same time. We'll also be looking at trying to fire up and activate the muscles that might have got a little bit lazy. And then we'll go into some good movement flows towards the end of the session as well. So the most important thing is you don't need any equipment, okay? The most that you're going to need is maybe if you've got Pilates or yoga mat, you could also use a cushion on the floor just to soften the blow on the knees. But apart from that, you don't need any equipment. We're just using body weight. And as I said, you're going to be able to follow this session along from start to finish. And I'm going to coach you through each and every part of the session today as well. So the first part of today's session is looking to try and release up the tightness through the back of the hips into the glutes. This has a huge influence on your pelvis and how the pelvis sits. It also influences your leg length as well, so whether one leg is longer than the other. Quite often this is related to the fact that the pelvis is either hiked up on one side or it's rotated and tilted out of position as well. So we're going to look at trying to realign that and try and stretch those glutes and the back of the hips out and try and regain some control for that lower back area. So the very first part of today's session then is a muscle release, and we call this one a leg press release. So find yourself a little bit of space on the floor, and just to start off with, whilst we're lying on the floor, because you probably spent quite a lot of the day hunched over and rounded over a computer or a laptop, let's just take the first couple of seconds just to relax into the floor and use gravity to pull us down into a good position. So I've got my knees bent, I've got my feet flat on the floor. I'm just going to relax my arms down by my side and just turn the palms up towards the ceiling as well. So for the first part of today's session, let's just work on trying to use our breathing to relax and switch off and open the chest up and relax that upper part of the back as well. So it's a nice deep inhale through the nose first of all. Breathing in through the nose, breathing as deep as you can down into the belly. And as you breathe deeper, you start to feel the lungs really expand. That starts to push the spine down towards the floor. Exhale through the mouth. And on the exhale, just focus on letting yourself relax. Let the body start to relax. Let those muscles start to relax as well. Okay, again from there, inhale through the nose. And exhale to relax. And again, you should feel as soon as you exhale, you let yourself just get pulled down in towards the floor that little bit more. Again, we're using gravity just to pull us into it. Okay, one more time. Inhale through the nose. And exhale to relax. Very good. Okay, so trying to release the glutes and the lower part of the back. We call this first one a leg press release. So left knee up to 90 degrees, both hands behind the left thigh, interlock the fingers, let that leg sit into the hands and let your leg just, or the lower part of the leg just relax down towards your bum. And then from here, very gentle pressure. I want you to try and push your leg away from your body. So we're pushing the leg into the hands, but the hand's there to stop the leg from moving. It's what we call an isometric hold. So we're pushing into the hand, but we're not letting the leg move. You might just feel a little bit of tightness through that lower back area. You might just feel the hips and the pelvis trying to shift around a little bit. Keeping the breathing relaxed, keeping your shoulders relaxed as we gently push the leg into the hands. Try and keep the pressure steady. And then as you relax, let the foot just relax itself down to the floor. And we'll switch on to the other side. So drawing that right knee up to 90 degrees, both hands behind the thigh. Let the heel relax down towards the bum. Let the shoulders relax onto the floor. Gentle pressure, trying to push that leg into the hands. And you'll just feel the pressure just pushing into the arms and the hands. And again, we're just going to hold this position. Keep the pressure steady. Just making sure the shoulders don't start to try and sort of roll forwards and hunch up too much here. Okay, relaxing that right foot down towards the floor. Let's go back and do a second repeat on that left leg. So left knee to 90 degrees, both hands behind the thigh. Let the weight of the leg sit into the hands, let the heel relax down to the bum. Gently start to push the leg away from the body. And again, the hands there to block it. Now we're trying to use around 20 to 25% effort, so not a big push. Just keeping it really steady. And again, just relaxing the breathing here as well. So just using the inhale in through the nose. And letting that exhale just relax you. Okay, bring that left foot down to the floor. Going back onto the right hand side, right knee up to 90. Hands behind the thigh. Relax the heel down. Set your position. Gentle pressure. Pushing that right leg into your hands. And again, just use the breathing here just to relax. Making sure we don't tense up too much through the shoulders. Okay, on the exhale, relax that right foot down to the floor. And then from here, just let both legs just relax all the way down towards the floor. And you can just let the feet turn out to the side slightly and you'll feel the hips open up at the same time. Keeping your right leg on the floor, draw the left knee back up to 90 degrees. This time what I want you to do is reach over with your right hand. Take your hand just below that left knee. Start to bring it in towards the body. And then when you can start to feel a stretch around here in the left buttock, I just want you to bring that leg over towards the right hand side slightly. Using your left arm on the floor as a support, so you're not rotating too much. We're just bringing that leg across the body, feeling a really good stretch into the back of the left hip. And again, just checking in on the shoulders, making sure they're not tightening up. Using your breathing to relax again. So again, inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth to relax. Okay, letting the left leg relax all the way down to the floor. Let's do the same on the right hand side. So we're going to bring that right leg up to 90. This time reach over with the left hand. Bring that knee into the body first of all. And then just start to bring it across towards your left shoulder here. Easing into that stretch. Relaxing the upper body so we're not tensing too much. Just taking your time to relax into the stretch here. So again, you should be able to feel when you inhale through the nose, you breathe deep into the belly. But on the exhale, you feel yourself relax straight away into this stretch. It gets a little bit easier. You can bring the knee a little bit further across. Okay, letting that right leg relax all the way down. From here, let's bend both knees, keeping the feet on the floor. We're going to squeeze the knees and the feet together. We've got both arms out nice and wide on the floor for support. And we're going into what we call lumbar rolls this time. So what I want you to focus on is the knees and the feet at the focal point. As we bring the knees across to the left-hand side, I'm just letting my right foot lift off the floor, and that allows me to bring the knees across. Only going halfway down towards the floor before you draw back up to the top. Take the knees over to the right-hand side, lift the left foot off the floor, halfway down to the floor, and back up to the top. And again to the left, letting the weight of the knees come down. Just squeezing the abdominals slightly, bringing the knees back up, taking it over to the right hand side. Now you'll notice that we're not trying to push this movement too far, okay? Don't want you to hit the floor. We're just trying to take the knees from about 45 degrees, so halfway down to the floor, back up to the top, and the same going across. So we're just very gently trying to free up that lower back area. It's what we call your lumbar spine, the lower back. And it doesn't have a huge amount of movement through rotation. So you don't need to push this one too far as you go across. Just a nice steady rhythm, left to right, keeping the knees together, keeping the feet together, and using your arms for support. Okay, as we get to the top of the movement, let's take those feet nice and wide on the floor. Really trying to plant the feet onto the floor this time, so we've got a really stable base as we extend both arms up towards the ceiling, bringing the hands together at the top, interlock the fingers. Okay, shoulder rolls this time, so keeping your eyes on your hands as you take those arms to the right hand side. Let the ribcage lift up off the floor, bring it back across, take it to the left. Now for this movement, we're trying to keep those elbows locked out, letting the upper body do the rotation, so not letting the hips lift up off the floor. We'll take it nice and steady to start off with. And again, you'll notice that my elbows don't bend, I'm keeping my arms straight. When we start to feel comfortable, we can just start to take the pace up a little bit from side to side. So letting the rib cage lift up as we go across and across, from right to left. Nice steady movement. Just creating that rotation through the upper part of the body. Keeping those elbows locked out all the way. And again, one more time. And just relaxing the arms down to the side from here. Okay, so keeping on with the theme of trying to release the upper body, let's go laying onto the side this time. So if you go laying onto your left hand side, you've got the knees in front of the body, you've got the knees together, and the knees are going to bring you down and anchor you towards the floor. The left hand is down on the floor in front of you, the right hand is going to sit on top of the left hand, and just let your head just relax down to the floor. From here, keeping the right hand on the floor, or you start to draw a big semicircle, so we're coming up. As we get up towards the forehead here, I want you to open the palm up by rotating that shoulder and see if you can bring that hand behind you. Now don't worry if you can't get all the way down to where I am here. You might only get about halfway, okay? Just take it to halfway and then bring it back across, again with the hand on the floor, rotating through the shoulder, bringing palms together at the bottom. And again from there, drawing that semicircle up, rotate through the shoulder, open up through the chest, and again, just work with whatever movement you've got. All the way back in. And again from there, one more time. Draw that line up and open. Open up through the chest, rotate through the shoulder, bringing it back around. Perfect. Okay, let's switch on to the other side. So we're going to go lay onto your right hand side this time. So we've got right arm down on the floor. The knees again are locking us in position. The left hand sits on top of the right hand. Let the head just relax down. Keep that left hand on the floor, draw it up, open up as we go. See what sort of movement we can get as we bring it all the way around. And then start to draw that line back across again. Just move a bit further down this way. And again from there. So staying on that left hand side, draw it up and open. Just let the upper body rotate. Notice how the knees don't lift off the floor here. And then draw it back around again. And one more time. Left arm draws all the way across, opens up. And then drawing that semicircle back across. Perfect, okay. So just coming up into a kneeling position. Just give yourself a moment just to open the chest up and shake the arms off a little bit. That last movement does really test that range of movement through the shoulder, so you might feel a little bit of tightness there as well. Okay, so from here, let's focus now into the upper part of the spine. So when we're on all fours, you've got your hands directly under the shoulders, you've got the knees under the feet, under the hips, sorry, and then the top of my feet, I'm just going to let them just push down into the floor slightly, okay? So I'm just digging them into the floor, creating a little bit of tension through the body. Now we go into what we call a cat stretch. So from here, keeping those arms nice and straight, I'm going to tuck my chin down to my chest, and I'm going to think about trying to peel my back up towards the ceiling, stretch out the top of the movement, pause at the top, slowly lower it back down to a neutral position. And then from here, as you draw your head up, just think about trying to pull the belly button down towards the floor. That brings you down into extension. Keeping the hips and the shoulders fixed. Round it back up towards the ceiling again. Tucking the chin to the chest. Pull the back up towards the ceiling. Pause at the top. Bring it back down to neutral. Letting the head and the chest draw up, pull the belly button down towards the floor. Just let those shoulders relax again if you feel them starting to tighten up. And again from there, round it up towards the ceiling from the chest, pulling up towards the ceiling. Bring it back to neutral. Open up through the chest this time, let that lower back just pull down towards the floor. And from here we're going to sink the hips right back towards the heels and just let your arms reach out and towards the floor in front of you, bringing your forehead down towards the floor and just relax into the stretch here. So you might just need to reposition yourself if the knees are a little bit uncomfortable. If you've got anything that you can use as a bit of a cushion, just to take some pressure off the knees. Now the idea is that you should be able to relax into these stretches as well, so you don't want to feel too uncomfortable. So sitting those hips back towards the heels, reaching the arms forwards, and just bringing the head down towards the floor. Just give yourself a good 10-15 seconds to relax into the stretch. Okay, keeping both hands on the floor, walk them about a foot over to the left hand side. So left hand goes over, right hand brings it across to follow. And as you sit back into the hips now, you're going to feel a really good stretch from down the left hand side, the right hand side of the back. As you sit back into it. And again, just let yourself relax into it. Feel that great stretch down the right hand side of the back. Relax into the stretch. Bringing the hands back to the centre. Take them a foot over to the right hand side this time. So bringing it across. And again, as we relax into it, that stretch runs down the left hand side of the back now. Just relax into that stretch. Think about using your breathing here as well. So deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth just to relax it back, hips back to the heels. Okay, as we come back up, let's bring it back onto all fours. Now you might just want to get rid of that cushion. Okay, let's work on some rotation movement this time. So, when we've got the knees on the floor, I'm just going to take the knees a little bit wider than hip width. I'm going to bring my toes together at the back as well to create a bit of a triangle. And I'm going to place my left hand on the floor, directly under the chest. I'm going to spread the palm out nice and wide. That gives me a solid base to work from, first of all. I'm going to take my right hand at the back of my head with the elbow pointing out to the side. Now from here, I'm going to try and open up through the chest, so I'm pushing off the left arm, opening up with that right arm, feeling a stretch through the chest and the upper part of the back, and then just starting to bring the elbows together as I rotate under. So open up to the top, and then bring it together, and again from there, open up, and bring it together. Okay, switching sides from there then. So taking the right hand onto the floor, left hand behind the head, pushing off that right arm, open up, bringing the elbows together at the bottom, and again, open up, and bringing the elbows together. So feeling a really good stretch through the chest and the upper part of the back. And again, one more time. Okay, so when we're kneeling on the floor, we're going to take the knees nice and wide, just outside hip width apart, and just bringing the big toes together at the back as well, so we create a nice stable base on the floor. Left hand goes onto the floor directly underneath the chest, right hand goes just behind the back of the head, and then from here what I'm trying to do is open up through the chest. So I'm pushing off the left arm, opening up through the chest, reaching that right elbow up towards the ceiling. And then from here, I'm just going to bring it down so elbows come together at the bottom. Open up again, pushing off that left arm, feeling the stretch through the chest and the upper part of the back. Bring the elbows together at the bottom. And again from there, open up. And bring it back down. One more time, open up. And then bringing it back in. Okay, swapping sides. So I'm going to take right hand down onto the floor. Left hand goes behind the head, pushing off that right arm as we open up, and then bring the elbows together at the bottom. And again, feel that rotation through the chest and the upper back before you bring the elbows back together. And again from there, pushing off that right arm. And one more time. Very good, okay. Let's just give it a little bit of rest on there. Just a couple of arm circles just to really open the chest up. You might feel a little bit of tension off the back of what we've done so far. So just taking a moment just to relax. We're going to look at trying to free up the hips now as well, while we're on all fours, before we move on to the next part of the program. So let's take the hands back down into the floor again. Let's have the knees just underneath the hips this time so they're a little bit closer together. I'm going to keep my left knee on the floor. I'm going to keep a straight line through my back as I now lift that right knee up slightly. Try and draw the right heel up towards the ceiling. So keeping that 90-degree bend at the knee, driving that right heel up towards the ceiling, squeezing the right buttock, bringing that right knee back under the body and resetting at the bottom. So you might just need to reposition yourself, take your hands a little bit wider for a bit of support. Keep those arms straight. Let's go on the right leg again. Drive the heel up towards the ceiling. Squeeze the buttock. Pause. Bring it back down. And again, staying on that right hand side. Driving up through the heel. Squeezing the buttock at the top. Bringing it back in. Okay, 2 more repeats. Nice and steady. Drive up. Squeeze. Relax back down. One more time, drive up through the heel, squeeze the right buttock at the top, and bring it back down to the floor. Let's switch on to the left hand side. So we're going to plant that right knee down, push the top of the right foot into the floor, give yourself that little bit of support through the arms, Up on the left hand side. Now drive that heel up towards the ceiling. Squeeze the buttock at the top. Bringing it back in. Just watching that your lower back doesn't try and arch too much on this one. So if you feel that excessive arch through the lower back, you've probably tried to drive the foot up too high. Make it a bit of a smaller movement. And just keep it nice and steady. Work with whatever range you've got here. So up and squeeze. Control back down. And again. Up and squeeze. And control it back in. One more time. Up and squeeze, making sure that left buttock's starting to fire up. And control it back under the body. Okay, so in the next part of this session, we're going to start to try and test your movement and get the muscles fired up properly and really test the range of movement now as well. So just grab a little drink if you need it and we'll come back into it. Okay then, so as we go into the second part of today's session, let's start to look at some muscle activation, some core stability, and really testing the range of movement at the joints as well. So we'll start off with a shoulder bridge. This is pretty straightforward. The goal is that we're trying to open up the hips on the front, but also activate the buttocks at the back of the hip as well. So lay onto your back on the floor, just let your arms relax down by your side. Keep the knees bent. And then try and just gently pull those feet down towards the floor. So you should feel a little bit of tension, trying to sort of screw the heels down, dig them into the floor. And then from here, we're just bracing the abdominals slightly, digging those heels down, pulling the hips up towards the ceiling. And as we're pulling the hips up towards the ceiling, we're just actively now thinking about trying to squeeze the buttocks, okay? At the top, we hold the movement. So we're trying to stretch the hips out on the front, but we're trying to really get those glutes fired up at the back. Control the spine slowly down towards the floor. Let it roll back down towards the floor. Take a slight pause at the bottom. And again from there, dig the heels in, pull the hips up. Okay, we're thinking about trying to open the hips up, squeeze the buttocks. Conscious effort to get those muscles working. Hold at the top. Let your spine roll itself slowly back down until the hips come all the way down towards the floor. And then we go up again. So dig the heels in first of all. Start to pull the hips up towards the ceiling. So we're feeling a little bit of tightness in the tops of the thighs, but we're trying to clench the buttocks, make sure they're fired up again. Keep that conscious thought process going from the brain to the buttocks, telling them to work. Let the spine roll itself back down. Okay, 2 more repeats. Dig the heels in. Drive the hips up. Keeping that tension through the lower body, squeezing the buttocks, clench them at the top. Let the spine roll itself back down. One more time. Dig those heels in first of all. Let's grip the floor with the feet. Pull the hips up. Clench the glutes at the top. Again, making sure that we can feel it. If you were to lift your hands off the floor now, it should feel quite comfortable. You've got a really solid base through the legs. The glutes are working. The shoulders are fixed onto the floor. Okay, letting the spine roll itself back down. Okay, and then from there, just going into a quick set of lumbar rolls from side to side, nice and easy. Keep those hips freed up. Use the arms for support. Gently taking those knees from side to side. Before we go into the next variation, which is a glute bridge march this time. So, dig those heels back into the floor, set that solid position. Keep the arms relaxed down by the side. Dig the heels in. Pull the hips up, set that shoulder bridge to start off with, so we're nice and stable. Again, if we lift the hands off the floor now, we should feel like we've got control of this movement all the way through. Keeping that right foot on the floor, lift the left knee up to 90 degrees. Try to make sure the hips don't wobble from side to side. Pause at the top, plant that left foot back down onto the floor, dig the left foot in, lift up on the right hand side. Notice how we've got a 90-degree bend at the knee here. We're not just letting it drop down or stick up into the air. We're keeping it fixed in position. That left leg feels the control here. Bring that right foot back down towards the floor. Dig it into the floor as you lift up again on that left-hand side. Pause at the top. Squeeze the right buttock. Make sure it's fired up and working. Bring that left foot down towards the floor. Let's go back onto the right-hand side. Drawing that right knee up to 90 degrees. Keeping those hips fixed in position. One more time on each side. Dig that right foot into the floor. Lift the left leg up. Pause at the top. Plant that left foot back down to the floor. Draw the right knee up to 90. So you should really feel that left glute starting to work. Bring the right foot back down. Let the hips roll back down towards the floor. Okay, just give the glutes, the legs and that lower back area a little bit of recovery time. Let's go into another set of lumbar rolls just to keep things freed up. Making sure we're just not tightening up through the lower back too much. And we're just keeping the hips and the pelvis moving as freely as we can. Okay, a little bit of core activation this time. So, when you're laying on your back here, what I want you to think about is everybody has a different curvature in the spine, okay? Some people will take their hand here and they'll be able to feel a big curve, a big sort of space off the floor to the back. Others will feel a slight space, and some of you will feel like your back is just flat to the floor. Now, as long as you're in your neutral position, so just laying on your back, knees bent, relaxing the breathing, not trying to push down or lift up too much. This is the position we want to try and hold when we're stabilizing those core muscles, okay? So you can feel how much pressure is pushing down into the floor at the minute. Let's lift that right knee up to 90 degrees to start with. Let's lift the left knee up to meet it. So 90-degree bend at the knees, trying to keep the tension in the abdominals the same and the pressure on the lower back the same as well. So I'm just going to take my hands, I'm just going to dig them into those abdominals to make sure I can feel them working. I'm going to keep the right knee up in the air. I'm slowly going to tap that left heel down to the floor, brace the abdominals now before I draw back up to the top. Keeping it just on the left hand side first of all. As I lower the heel down to the floor, I can feel my lower back trying to lift up. I'm having to brace and squeeze my abdominals to stop it from happening, and then drawing that left knee back up again. Okay, let's go again from here. So tapping that left heel down to the floor, brace the abdominals, drive the knee back up to the top. Now when we talk about bracing the abdominals, I want you to imagine if someone were to punch you in the stomach, you've got enough tension to support it and absorb that pressure. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we're trying to brace. Let's go on the left leg again. Slowly tap the heel down, brace, draw back up. And again, one more time. Left hand side, tap that heel to the floor, draw back up to the top. Okay, switching on to the right leg. Slowly lower it down. 1, 2, 3. Draw back up to the top. And again from there, down for 1, 2, 3. And draw back up. Again, focus on that lower back area. We don't want it lifting up, we don't want it pushing down. We want it to stay in that neutral position. Whatever that is for you at the minute. Squeeze the abdominals, tap the floor, draw back up. Staying on that right hand side. In we go again. Slowly down for 1, 2, 3. Draw back up to the top. And again, one more time. Down for 1, 2, 3. Draw back up to the top. Just bring those knees into the body. Hug the knees into the body. Lift the hips up off the floor. And just take it from left to right. Just bringing that pressure away from the lower back. So it's surprising how much that movement actually fires up the abdominals. You just need to give yourself a little break in between. Okay, both feet back down to the floor. So I'm going to try that same movement again, but this time I'm going to try alternating from left leg to right leg. So I just want you to think about trying to brace those abs, make sure they're working to start off with. Both knees up to 90 degrees as your starting point. Let's go left leg first of all. 3 seconds down to the floor. So 1, 2, and 3. Tap the floor, draw back up to 90 degrees. Switch it onto the right hand side. Down for 1, 2, and 3. Tap the floor, draw back up to the top. Let's go back onto left. 1, 2, 3. Back up to the top, into the right hand side. 1, 2, and 3. All the way back up into left leg. 1, 2, and 3. Brace those abs, draw back up. Right hand side going, slowly down to the floor. Tap the floor and back up to the top. 2 more to go on each side if you can. 1, 2, and 3. Back up to the top. And again, watch that lower back doesn't lose control. Slowly tap the floor, bring it back in. 1 more to go on each side. Not losing control of the tempo here. Keeping that bracing action through the abs. You should really feel them working now. Not an easy movement. All the way back up. And again, bring the knees into the body. Taking a moment just to bring the pressure away from the lower back. Rocking it from side to side. Just relaxing those shoulders at the same time. Okay, so let's bring it up into a seated position, flipping over onto all fours. And we're going to try what we call a quadruped hold, okay? So quadruped is quite simply on all fours. So I've got my hands under my shoulders. I'm going to spread my palms out nice and wide so they're digging into the floor. I'm just going to tuck my toes under as well at the back, so we've got that nice stable starting position. Now from here, if I give you a little demo to start off with, what we want to try and do is make sure that the knees are directly under the hips, so we've got 90-degree bend, hands under the shoulders, tucking those toes under. We're just going to try and push up into a hover or a tabletop position. So my knees are just a couple of inches off the floor. I'm loading the shoulder or the hands directly over the shoulders, holding that position and just trying to keep that natural curve in the lower back. So it's not hiking up, it's not dropping down. We've got that neutral position and we're going to hold that one from there, okay? So just relax those knees down, give yourself a little bit of time to reset. When we hold this position, I want you to think about your breathing technique. So we're going to hold it for 3 deep inhale exhales before you bring the knees back down towards the floor. Make sure you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. So let's set that position first of all. Hands spread out nice and wide on the floor. Hands directly under shoulders, tucking the toes under at the back. In 3, 2, and 1. Drawing up into tabletop. Set the position and then work on your breathing. Inhale through the nose first of all. Breathe as deep as you can into the belly. Exhale through the mouth. And again, if you can hold it, keep going. Inhale through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Bringing those knees down to the floor. Just giving yourself a moment just to sit the hips back towards the heels. Reaching those arms forwards. Taking it a little bit from side to side. Okay, coming back up again into that quadruped position. So this time, when we hold it, we're going to hold it for 3 deep inhale exhales again. Let's see what we've got. Tucking the toes under at the back, hands spread out nice and wide. 3, 2, and 1. Up into tabletop. Set that position. Shoulders loaded over the hands. Inhale through the nose. And exhale. And again from there, inhale through the nose. And exhale. One more time, you should feel the body starting to work pretty hard now. And exhale, bringing those knees down to the floor. And again, just relaxing it back, sitting those hips back towards the heels, reaching the arms forwards, and just taking it a little bit left and right again. Open up those shoulders. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to work a little bit on some transitions of movements, okay? So we start in that quadruped position. We're going to come back up into a squat hold at the bottom. So let me talk you through the transition to start off with. I'll just turn it sideways on so you can see here. So I've got my hands under shoulders. I've got my feet just a little bit wider this time. So feet just about sort of outside shoulders and hips. Toes tucked under at the back. I'm going to start off first of all by pushing up into tabletop. And then from here I'm going to start to transition, pushing those hands or walking the hands in. My weight's in the balls of the feet. It's going to sink back into my heels. And I'm just going to see what sort of movement, if I can hold that deep squat at the bottom. So my arms are the counterbalance in front of the body. I'm sat back into the squat. Don't worry if you wobble and fall backwards. You can practice this one as we go through. And then from here we're going to lever forwards, bringing the hands forwards, bring it back into tabletop, and then knees back down onto the floor. So let's try 5 repeats, nice and steady. You can just have a play around with this one as you go through. So we've got hands under shoulders, feet a little bit wider, just to set that base. Let's push up into tabletop first of all. Hold that position. Start to walk those hands back in towards the feet, transitioning your weight from the balls of the feet down into the heels. Use the hands on the floor first of all, okay, if you don't feel that comfortable. Keep those heels lifted off the floor if you need to. And then if you feel comfortable from there, sit back into the heels, using the hands as your counterbalance. So this is a great range of movement for the knees first of all, and for the hips. We've got a real deep squat here. Okay, bring it forwards. And then just bring it back down just to reset. If you feel comfortable, let's go again. So tabletop, transfer back, heels off the floor if you need to. If you can, let's sit back into those heels. And let's try and use the hands as the counterbalance again, so you're effectively sat with your bum on the floor here. It's just off the floor. Just rock it a little bit from left to right. Make sure your knees feel comfortable here as well. Okay, transition forwards. Back onto tabletop, back down to the floor. And let's go in again now. We're starting to get the flow of the movement here. So push up into tabletop, walk it back, sink back into those heels, back into deep squat. Nice and deep squat, little bit of movement left to right at the bottom. Just shifting those hips from right to left. Okay, walking it forwards, back down to the floor. Let's just give it one more time, okay? Drawing up into tabletop, driving backwards with the hands, sinking back into those heels, deep squat at the bottom, hands there for counterbalance, holding that position again if you feel comfortable, taking it left to right. Okay, transition forwards, and back down onto all fours. Okay, so our next transition, instead of going into a squat, as we walk the hands back in, we're going to come up into what we call a downward dog this time, and we're going to stretch out the hamstrings and the glutes at the back. So, if I position myself like this, I've got hands under shoulders first of all, I'm tucking my toes under at the back, and then from here, instead of having my feet too wide, I've got them about hip width this time, pushing up into that tabletop position. From here, what I want you to think about is keeping your hands on the floor, driving back through the arms and the shoulders to push those hips back towards the wall behind you. Just hold that position and then bring it back forwards and bring it back down. And again, just give yourself that little bit of time to reset at the bottom. If you feel comfortable, we're going back up again into hover. So tabletop, driving off the arm, pushing those hips backwards, straighten out the arms as much as you can, and then bring it back down into tabletop and kneeling on the floor. Okay, one more time. Up into tabletop, Pause, drive back, drive those hips back, bring it back forwards, and bring it back down to the floor. And now let's just take a moment just to sit back towards the heels, reach those arms out in front of you, have a good stretch into your lats here. Okay, as we come out of the lat stretch, bring it up into a standing position now. So you should feel, after all of that movement that we've just done, the hips are going to feel like they've really sort of loosened off. They might feel a little bit tight to start off with, but that range of movement's really started to loosen them and open them up now. So as we go into the next part of the movement, this is a roll down, flexing through the spine, bringing ourselves out onto the floor and then walking it back up into a standing position. So my start position is feet around shoulder width apart. I'm just going to let my weight just rock forwards and backwards on the floor first of all, okay? So just feeling the weight go from the heels into the balls of the feet, and just wait until you land in a neutral position so you feel like your weight's evenly spread on the floor. Okay, when we're fixed on the floor, let's relax those shoulders, stand nice and tall, open the chest up. Okay, tucking the chin down to the chest, rolling forwards, letting the weight of the arms bring you down towards the floor, all the way down, soft knees, walk those hands out in front of you, bring it out into full plank position and hold that position there. So really trying to screw the hands into the floor, creating the tension through the abdominals and the glutes. Okay, starting to push back into the heels, walking those hands back in, just soften the knees as you go, walking all the way back into the roll down, and then roll up to the top, nice and slowly, and all the way back up to the top, just relaxing those shoulders at the top, open up through the chest, and in we go again, roll it down, slowly roll it forwards, just letting the weight of the arms bring you down towards the floor. Walk it out in front. Take that full plank hold. Squeeze in through the hands and the shoulders. Squeeze in the glutes. And walk it back in. Soften the knees as you go. Bringing it all the way back up into roll up. Again, relax those shoulders at the top one more time, nice and steady. Roll it down. Bringing the hands all the way to the floor. Walking the hands forwards. Setting that solid straight line in the plank. Squeeze and hold in that position. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, pushing back, walking those hands back in, drawing back up to the top, slowly rolling it up, just relaxing those shoulders at the top, and take a rest there, well done.